Congress that they even received it yet. And then back in 2015, we had a presidential race coming up, and I was very concerned about the direction of our country, about homeland security, terrorism, and illegal immigration, refugee resettlement. And I heard now President Trump start talking about those things, and I thought, that's who I've got to go with, because he's the only one that's talking about them. And so I called the head of the Trump campaign, and I said, I want to be a delegate to the convention. So he put me on the ballot, and then I was totally shocked when my husband said, well, tell him to put me on there too, and he ended up being the 6th District delegate to the convention. And I was able to stand on the floor of the convention, most bashful, and read out 33 votes for Donald J. Trump for president. And I am so glad that he is doing what he is doing. He is having a hard time. We need to remember him in our prayers, because I think our country literally depends on it. Our freedoms, our liberties, and it's just amazing how hard the left is fighting back. And even some of the Republicans in Washington, it's just unbelievable. Under Governor Bredesen, he decided to do away with the refugee resettlement program in Tennessee, and we were glad to hear that. But then the federal government went behind our backs. They started contracting with other agencies, bringing refugees in here. Well, that falls on our backs when you have to pay for their education, for food stamps, for housing, and you can go on and on. So last year, I heard that the Thomas More Law Center would represent us if we wanted to sue the federal government over refugee resettlement. So I called the Lieutenant Governor at home and told him he had not heard that. He called Senator Norris and got him to investigate it. We ended up passing a resolution through the House and through the Senate to sue the federal government over refugee resettlement and what it's costing the state of Tennessee. I think we probably have the best case of any state that has filed suit, because we have filed it on what it's costing us. And you know, we'll see what happens with that. Under a May Beavers administration, we will have a good Homeland Security Department. I was alarmed after the Chattanooga shootings, and we had some government operations hearings to learn that our National Guard could not carry guns in the recruiting centers. I mean, they were trained, they volunteered for us to defend us, and they can't even defend themselves. We had to pass a law to do that. We also found out at that time, after asking questions, that we have people coming to this country on visas to go to school at Tennessee Tech and other schools, and they'll disappear after a week or a month, and nobody knows where they are. So we had to pass another law just to ask our colleges and universities to keep up and track those people that come here on visas and let us know if they're disappearing into the population. I think that there's a lot a governor can do to protect our state, just like our president. His main responsibility is to protect our country, and that's what we will do. And it was Sharia laws mentioned a few minutes ago, and I'm glad you brought that up. We were the first state in the union to pass a law. It's called Tennessee Law for Tennessee Courts. I was also glad to hear that President Trump is slowly removing all of the gangs, the illegal gangs that have come into this country. I think that's the first step. But you know, what don't we understand about illegal means they're breaking the law already, whether or not they've killed someone or not. They're breaking the law when they come into this country. I've got supporters that came here legally. I have one surgeon down in Jackson, Tennessee. He's been here for 8 years, and he only got his citizenship 2 years ago. And he believes in what we're running on because he came here legally. And then we have the refugees coming here, the illegal immigrants. They're going to our schools and they can't speak English. So what do? We have English as a second language. And it's costing us hundreds of millions of dollars because we have to get interpreters. They're being put into classes, they don't understand what's being taught, and then they're being tested. And so We have got to start fully immersing these children that are coming here as refugees into the English language. That used to be the first thing you did when you came to America, was learn the English language. Because they're not going to understand being in the class what the subject's all about if they don't know the English language. Pro-life, I've passed informed consent, hospital privileges. Informed consent, we want to make sure that the women knew that one of their choices could be adoption. Hospital privileges, most of your doctors have hospital privileges, so if they perform a procedure on you, they can meet you at the hospital in case there are complications. There was no such law in place for women who had abortions. We had a clinic in Knoxville, been there for 28 years, and with that one law, the doctor went and got his hospital privileges, and then he died, and they said, well, we're not going to fool with this anymore, and they closed down that whole clinic. I also passed SJR 127, carried it the year that it needed a 2/3 vote to be put on the ballot as Amendment 1. And you've probably heard that last week that was argued before the Supreme Court. We're being sued because they're saying we counted the votes wrong. So, we'll see about that. It had to be a certain percentage of the people that cast a vote in the last governor's race. Then Amendment 2 was on the ballot that year also, and that was to take away your right to vote on your Supreme Court justices. I had always believed that the Tennessee plan for selecting judges was wrong. It didn't follow our Constitution. And so somebody passed a resolution, we put it on the ballot, the people voted on it. And believe me, I've never seen so much misinformed communications from some of the people that did not want to be elected and some of our leadership, as I did with that particular case. Our Constitution said that we would elect Supreme Court justices. And one of the reasons that was important to keep that is because our Attorney General in the state of Tennessee is selected by the Supreme Court. Well, if they're not elected by the people, our Attorney General is twice removed from the people of Tennessee. He's your attorney. And so I've been working on that for years. We passed it through the Senate this last year, and it got killed in a House subcommittee, as so many of our good bills do. And talking about killing in subcommittee in the House, our Second Amendment bills, for years we were able to pass them through the Senate, and they get killed in the House subcommittee. I passed open carry with 23 votes in the Senate a couple of years ago, and then it was killed in the House subcommittee. We just got where we let them run it first, because we know they're going to kill it. I don't think that the subcommittees have the support of leadership, quite frankly. They're appointed, and I think that they're told sometimes to kill those good bills. I was there when the carry permit bill was passed. Jerry and I have been lifetime family members of the Tennessee Firearms Association ever since that time. And I guess I skipped one little thing there. After the income tax, they persuaded me to run for the Senate, and we got our senator who proposed the state income tax out of the Senate and retired him. He tried to come back in 2006 and ran against me, and we beat him by 58%, so hopefully he's permanently retired. Let's talk a little bit about education. I filed a bill a couple of years ago to do away with Common Core. I have grandchildren who were in Common Core classrooms at a magnet school in Murfreesboro, and I know the pressure that was being put on him and the testing and everything, and of course we didn't get our bill passed. They passed a bill to rewrite the standards, which some people are telling me now are worse than the Common Core standards. And another thing with education is all the testing.